Welcome back to Assembly Update. I'm Assemblymember Angelo Santa Barbara. You can find me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter under ASM Santa Barbara, or find me on Instagram under Assemblyman Santa Barbara. I have offices in the city of Amsterdam and the city of Schenectady. In Amsterdam, 1170 Riverfront Center, Amsterdam, New York, 12010. I can be reached by phone there at 518-843-0227. In the city of Schenectady, 433 State Street, Schenectady, New York, 12305. I can be reached by phone there at 518-382-2941. And as always, by email at santabarbara@assembly.state.ny.us. Welcome back to the show. We are going to now introduce some new guests, actually co-authors of a book called Images of America, Helderberg Hill Towns, and it's a fantastic book with a lot of history in it. And the co-authors are here, John Elberfield and Jay McLean. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, this book, you are co-authors, and I looked through it and I saw a lot of historical pictures in it, and it's about the history of Helderberg Hill Towns. So tell us about the book.
We were asked by the publisher, Arcadia Publishing, to do a book on the 4 hill towns, and no book had ever been written about the 4 hill towns before. So we thought it was an opportunity to tell the story of the hill towns. Where are the hill towns? A lot of people don't know. The hill towns are the 4 westernmost towns of Albany County. What are the towns?
Bern, Knox, Rensselaerville, and Westerlo.
And Bern and Knox, of course, we know because that's part of the Assembly District. So, and that's where actually where I had a chance to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about the hill towns, and I've looked at some of these pictures, there's a lot of history there, isn't there? And how difficult was it to sort of capture that and put it into a book?
In some ways it was easy, and in some ways it was difficult. Difficult because Arcadia Publishing has very strict standards, and we could use only original sources for the photographs. We couldn't use any copies. We had to go get to the original ones, and sometimes it was hard. We were doing this research immediately after Tropical Storm Irene, when a lot of people's resources were underwater. So sometimes it was hard.
Yeah.
We had a lot of help from a lot of people in the hill towns, the 4 historical societies, and John went around with his computer and his scanner, visited a lot of people. What'd you do?
A lot of people, the family pictures are really treasures, and they didn't want to let us borrow them, but in order to make copies, we had to go out to their places. So 2 or 3 nights a week for several months, I would go out and sit at a kitchen table with somebody with my scanner and my computer, and they'd go through the photograph album, and we'd pick out what we thought were the most interesting pictures and scan them in.
And you know, in doing that, and it's wonderful to see a collection of these this history. You're helping preserve them as well.
Right.
And that's an important part of this book. And I imagine it took a lot of effort, a lot of hours to do that.
I did the writing, and John did all the technical work. We found it worked best that way. We've both written before, so this was kind of another joint venture for us. What we did, the first chapter tells the collective history of the hill towns, but then we had 4 small towns that we had to tell the same story but in a different way. And so we picked a different topic sort of for each town. In Rensselaerville, which is the first town that was incorporated, we talked mostly about the old history. And then in Bern, we focused on the summer tourism trade. And in Westerlo, I wrote that chapter sort of from the point of view of a young child. And then in Knox, being the newest town or the youngest town, I focused on a lot of women, what women did other than just be farm housewives. So each chapter is a little different because it has a little different slant.
In case people are wondering, I know you have a wonderful map here to show exactly where the hill towns are, and I know they're going to flash that up in a little while. Each the research was sort of segmented into each. You had to sort of venture into each town and sort of find that history and figure out what was going to be in the book.
Right.
So if people want to read this wonderful book or find it, where could they get it?
It's in the local libraries.
Okay.
And it's also available from Arcadia Publishing. It's also available from our own home business, BB Farm Idea Works.
So BB Farm Idea Works there's a website as well that you could www.bbfarm.org.
Info.
Okay, .info. So they could pick one up there, or they could find it at their local bookstore. Helderberg Hilltowns is the name of the book. I know we want to talk about your wonderful quilt as well that I had a chance to see firsthand. And I want to give you some time to explain, because this is fascinating to me. My daughter and I visited when we visited and saw all the quilts, and well, that's not a quilt, but it's something else I'll have you explain. But nevertheless, we really enjoyed learning about those.
When we were doing our research, the research took us all over the hill towns, all 240 square miles, and we saw a lot of old farm buildings. We saw the old New World Dutch barns. We saw hops houses and pig pens and sheds and all kinds of the old farm buildings. And some of them were in not very good shape. And it's really sad to see old rural buildings falling apart. And we wanted to draw some attention to the old barns, but also I'm a seamstress. And so I was also interested in local quilts. So you've been talking about the quilt show that was in Knox. We've had a couple of them through the Knox Historical Society, and we are interested in putting quilts and barns together. This is a movement that was started in Ohio. It's only been around for a dozen or so years, and people take wooden, painted barn designs, quilt designs, and put them on their barns or their houses for decoration.
Now these are, and we see some of them coming up on the screen here. Some of them are quite large. So is there the size varies depending on where you want to have this pattern put up?
A lot of it depends on how much room you have available. The standard size would be 8 feet by 8 feet, which is really 2 4x8 sheets put together. But if, for our place, we didn't have anything that was 8 feet by 8 feet, so we have one that's 6 feet by 6 feet and one that's 4 feet by 4 feet.
And we're seeing some of them here that actually have a pattern, but there's also a sort of design in the middle of the the square. And these, the last time we talked about the Quilt Barn Trail. So and there's a little map that you shared, and I picked one of these up when I met you the first time. So this is sort of a guide as to where you can find these barn designs.
It's a grassroots movement that started in Ohio, as John said. It has spread all over the United States. There are trails, these published trails, where you can go all over the back roads and see these barn quilts. And just it's purely decorative. It's not advertising. It's just a beautiful way to draw attention to rural architecture and just beautify the place. So up in the hill towns, we do have a published trail. It's the Helderberg Quilt Barn Trail, and we do have a map and a guide, because here's the guide that shows the pictures of the barn quilts, but on the back is a map. So you can actually come into the hill towns from any direction and follow the map, and then here are the numbers, and find the numbers, and just drive around and look up and see the barn quilts.
And some of them are quite large, and it looks like you can see them from
yes.
from a distance.
They all have to be visible from a public road, so nobody's driving on private property. One that you've shown on the screen, that's that green one with the Celtic knots on the outside and the harp in the middle, that's 8 feet by 8 feet. It's hung on point. It's called on point. It's diagonal, so it's about 11.5 feet through the diameter. So it really is quite large.
And these vary in shape, size, and patterns. And if people want to add, I see this is updated as of December 2014. People want to add or be a part of this, they can contact you and let you know that they have a pattern that they'd like to include. So anybody watching, the website's the best way, www.hqbt.org. And I see that you're also on Facebook.
Yes.
Helderberg Quilt Barn Trail on Facebook. That's wonderful. That may be the best way to sort of
Either way.
learn. Or if someone wanted a copy of this map, how would the best way would be the website?
The website, they could download it and print it out for themselves. They could drive right through the hill towns and see the barn quilts or just get ideas. They can make their own barn quilt or they can hire someone to paint one.
And I mean, these patterns vary, but is there a particular, if someone asked, hey, I'd like to do one of these, is there some guidance somewhere where they could sort of ask some questions about what the patterns, what's involved?
Part of our goal is to have other people doing the quilts. I do a lot of them, but I would much rather be an instructor and help people learn how to do it on their own. A lot of the patterns have a personal meaning. They're a pattern that their grandmother used, or a picture of something that means a lot to one of their family members.
Wonderful.
And there are instructions on the website how you can build your own, construct your own, paint your own, design your own. The instructions are all there.
So I would encourage people watching that want to learn more, either the Facebook or the website. Also the book, Helderberg Hill Towns, and we know where those hill towns are now because we showed the map. And you have a lot of pictures in here, a lot of history in this book. And I know we flashed some of these old pictures up on the screen. This represents a lot of work, a lot of historic preservation, and it's great to see it all in one book. So if you're interested in the hill towns, I recommend getting this book, finding it online on the website, or learn more on Facebook. I want to thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you for asking us to come.
Yeah, and you shared a lot of information, and for those that want to learn more, they can go on the website and learn more about the hill towns. And it's great to see that you're involved and you're doing these things for our community. Thank you for being here.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us here on Assembly Update. Join us again where we'll talk more about people doing great things in our community, preserving history, and sharing traditions as well. So thank you. Join us again here on Assembly Update, and we will see you again in the next show. Thank you.